Couple people here, they know who they are, who I'm extra happy to see. But I'm on a little bit strict time limit, so I'm gonna just get right into it. I might not use this if y'all have trouble hearing me, because I feel like I speak loud enough. If y'all have trouble hearing me, just let me know and I'll pick it back up. But I've been on my practicing without that, so I just let me know. Okay, everybody that knows me knows that I love food. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. If you know me long enough, I enjoy food, I enjoy eating. But of all the foods that I love, there are a few things that I kind of don't like. Raw tomatoes and olives, and that goes for black or green. There's a difference. They're both disgusting to me. But
yes, sir.
There's only some things you can do to a tomato that make me like it. You know, you can prepare it in a way. You can get salsa, tomato sauce, pizza sauce, ketchup. I love ketchup. But there's absolutely nothing you can do to an olive. I don't care what you do to it. I don't care how small you chop it up. I don't care what you put it on. I will not eat it. I will not take it off. There's a residue of that olive will be on that thing, and I'm not going to touch it. Go ahead, take that back. Make me something fresh. So now I'm getting into it today. I just wanted to give y'all a little notice on who I am. That's who I am. I like to eat. So today my message will be titled, "Don't Become Blinded by the Miracle." It falls right in line with the theme for today, from brokenness to wholeness. My message today will be centered around mostly about one person, and then help bolster that point. We're going to bring in another passage. So it's going to come from Mark chapter 10, verses 46 to 52. My beautiful fiancée is going to go ahead and read that for me. It's my first time doing this, and I didn't want to do this without her.
And they came to Jericho, and as they went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great number of people, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the highway side begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, "Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me." And many charged him that he should hold peace. But he cried that the more a great deal, "Thou son of David, have mercy on me." And Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. And they called the blind man, saying unto him, "Be of good comfort. Rise, he calleth thee." And he, casting away his garment, rose, and he came to Jesus. And Jesus answered and said unto him, "What wilt thou that I should do unto thee?" The blind man said unto him, "Lord, that I might receive my sight." And Jesus said unto him, "Go thy way, the faith hath made thee whole." And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus in the way.
Thank you. In reading that, I come to realize that a lot of us suffer from the same condition as blind Bartimaeus. Now, a lot of you, I know, sees, I ain't blind, but I'm here to tell you that his condition wasn't blindness, wasn't visible blindness. He may have, that may have been his ailment, that may be what he was afflicted by, but that was not his condition. His condition was set up by the system in which he operated in. Come on, sir. He operated in a blind man's system, thus he was termed blind Bartimaeus. He did what blind people did during that day. They sat on the roadside, or I'm assuming in marketplaces, alleyways, wherever they feel like people, traffic would come past, just to get what they needed for that day, whether it be money, clothing, food. So he operated in that system. Now, to help you understand this a little further, let's think about Stevie Wonder. He's blind, visually blind, but yet when you talk about him, you don't typically bring up his blindness. You talk about superstition, writing on the wall, happy birthday to you. That's what you think about when you think Stevie Wonder. Although you know he's blind, although you know that he suffered from blindness his entire life, that's not what you talk about whenever you think about him. You talk that may come up in the conversation, it might come up in the midst of the conversation, but it's not what drives the conversation because he did not operate under a blind man's system. He did not operate under the system which we would put somebody who we see who's visually blind under. But blind Bartimaeus fully operated under that system. And because of that, he's not just called Bartimaeus, he's called blind Bartimaeus. He wasn't given that name at birth. Blind Bartimaeus, even though he was probably blind at birth. He's given this name Bartimaeus, and because in his come up, the way he was brought away, during his bringing up and operating under that system of blindness, they called him blind Bartimaeus. And not only was he suffering from that condition of being blind, He simply sat in what ailed him. He sat in his blindness. I came with a definition for blindness. Blindness is the inability to see past your condition. See, you don't have to be blind visually to be blind.
Come on,
You
sir.
can be blinded by anger, rage, jealousy. There's a lot of different things you can be blinded by and operate under, causing a different kind of condition. He operated under a blind man's system, thus causing a blind man's condition. You can operate under the system of anger and thus become an angry person. You can operate under the system of being a prideful person and thus being termed that's who you are. You don't see anything past that point. You have the inability to see past what ails you, your anger. Every time you have a conversation with somebody, every time you engage with a person, you show anger. You show this antagonist spirit to just want to irritate because of what you have in you and what you settled yourself under. And you may not even like it about yourself. Just because you operate under it, just because you operate in that system, that doesn't necessarily mean that you like it. And because we don't like it, we'll use that to gain sympathy from others. We'll use that, we'll try to justify our position and try to gain sympathy. So you sit on the side of life, begging people who are on their way somewhere. You understand? You understand where I come from, right? Come on, I didn't have my dad. You get the fact why I have to sit there. I'm a single mom. What do you want me to do? I have to have this job. Who else is going to... You sit on the side of life begging, trying to get some people to understand why you're there.
Wow.
You would rather justify your position because of the ailment instead of changing your position in spite of the ailment.
Wow.
But while doing so, you might start to get a word that there's another way. You don't have to operate under this system. You don't have to be subject to this system that you're operating under. You get a word that there's another way. You might hear about a blind boy may have heard about a man named Jesus. Mm-hmm. You see, one thing I want to just jump into real quick. See, whenever he's passing blind Bartimaeus' path, he's on his way to be crucified. Yeah. This is one of the last miracles of Jesus. Mm-hmm. So he's on his way to be crucified. So since he's on his way there, that means all his mighty acts have been done up to this point. So that means that people walking past and they're talking about it. You know, you hear about the 3 loaves, the 2 fish and the 3 loaves of bread, and you hear he raised people from the dead. He raised 2 people from the dead, as a matter of fact. Did you hear that? And so Bartimaeus hears this, and he's thinking, wait, he did what? He did who? He raised what? And he started to think, well, man, why can't he heal me? And so you're sitting on the side of life, and did you hear who he raised from cancer? They went in there one day, they had cancer, the next week they came back, it was gone. You heard they relieved them of their debt, $50,000 in school debt, and you hit that gone. And you like, hold on, who did this? How did they had cancer. Knocking people down left and right, and now they're healed from it. Wow. Not only are they in remission, it is gone and it's not coming back. So you start to hear this and you start to engage people. Well, if they can heal them, if he can heal them, why would he not be able to heal me? Yes. Why would I not be able to receive the same healing that so many others have? Yeah. So you come to find out that Jesus is in the midst of blind Bartimaeus' life. I'm going to define midst for you. Midst, position or proximity. In the middle, as in coming amongst something after it's already been started. I'm helping you understand this a little further. I'm going to go to scripture, Genesis 2:9. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to sight, and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. See, God is in the middle of creating. Yeah. He's in the middle of creating. And while creating, amongst that, in the midst of that, he places his presence, and Satan's presence comes amongst that. So you're in the middle of doing something. You're driving your car. And in the midst of driving your car, you turn on music. It's amongst something. So Jesus is in the midst of his life. Blind Bartimaeus is just simply living his life operating under this blind man's system. Sitting on the side of the road begging. And in the midst of that, he starts to hear about this man named Jesus. And he starts to believe, I can be healed. I can be made whole. Yeah. Now, it's not a bad thing for Jesus to be in the midst of your life. It's actually good for Jesus to be in the midst of your life. You should acknowledge him throughout your day, throughout your week. He should be acknowledged. But as long as Jesus solely remains in the midst of your life, he can never be planted or rooted at the head of your life. See, when he's just in the midst, it's based on circumstances and situations as to why he comes up in life. See, blind Bartimaeus is just living, and he has to wait for people to walk past and mention him. People that know him, people that engage him, people that experience his love, his presence, his word, and you have to wait for that. And so you're subject to an atmosphere that somebody else created that you're unable to create on your own. So you go, so you're here in church, and Jesus in the midst, and we had a great praise and worship this morning, and it was awesome, and it was wonderful, and everybody's clapping, they're singing, and some people can leave here and carry that with them, and so they never leave the midst. But there's those like blind Bartimaeus that once they leave, it's gone. And now they have to wait for the next Bible study. They have to wait for the pastor to call them to let them know that I got a word for you, or they got to hear that song to let them know that God is still here, because they were unable to generate that relationship on their own.
Yeah.
But there is some good that comes out of Jesus being in the midst. There is some good. Faith can be developed in this. Now, to develop faith, it's the best that you understand it. The more you understand faith, the easier it is to develop it. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into this faith a little bit. You can talk about faith forever, but I'm going to give y'all a nice little rundown here. So y'all, when y'all leave here, y'all know exactly what y'all need to do to get faith. A popular passage for faith is Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So now, to understand, let's go ahead and break that down for you. So we're going to break it down piece by piece. So substance of things hoped for. Substance of things hoped. What is hope? Hope. It is a desire, something that you want, something that you have in your mind and you want. So correlated to the story, blind Bartimaeus wants his sight. So through conversations, everything, he starts to learn about who Jesus is. He starts to believe that Jesus can. So now he has substance. What is substance? Substance of things hoped for. Substance in the original Greek means to stand under. So it's this stage right here, to stand under, foundation. It stands under me. So now it's not just a hope. It's not just some whimsical idea. It is literally a solid matter. As real as this stage is right here, that is my hope once I found it in Jesus Christ. That is my hope. My hope is no longer an idea. It is solid. It is tangible. I can touch it. I can feel it. But blind Bartimaeus never transitioned from can to is. He forgot about the second part of Hebrews 11:1. See, there's two parts. And without both parts, you cannot have faith. You cannot have, without both the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Without the evidence of things not seen, you cannot have faith. So let's break that down. Evidence of things not seen. Evidence, proof. So this stage here, I built this stage under Christ, so that's my substance. It's real. It's here. I gotta prove to God that I believe in what I established under him. I have to prove to him that I believe in what I established. So how do I prove it? How do I prove to God that I believe in the thing that I established in him? Well, I have to walk out on it. You have to walk out on your faith. You have to walk out on it. That this stage is walk out on it. So you come from this establishment, and you prove to God, look, I believe you.
Yes.
I believe you. By walking out from the faith I established in you.
Yes.
All right now. Yes.
Preach this then. Yes, let's go back to this point. So
Take your time.
Can to is. Can is here. This is can. I believe that the stage has the ability to hold me. I believe that the stage can hold me. But as long as I remain in can, it's just a stage. There's no what's the point in building this stage if we never get up there and use it? Yeah, it's a beautiful stage, but yet we sit down here all the time. Why even build it? Why have it there? You'll sit there and complain. Jesus don't never do nothing for me. I don't have. Well, you never walked out on the faith you established. How can he help you? So let's move forward. Yes. I can stay there for a long time. So he needed Jesus to walk past.
Take your time.
He needed Jesus to walk past. He didn't need that much. He needed Jesus to walk past. See, he had substance things to hope for. He had his substance. But he in that transition, like as I said from Canada, so he needed Jesus to walk past. He needed him to walk past. Now there's the issue with that. Because he needed Jesus to walk past, he had to be in the right space within himself in order to take advantage of that moment. So you had argument right before you came in here. Now it's shut down. Now your mind's not open to receive what's being spoken to you. Your mind's on what's my next rebuttal when we leave here. You know it's gonna start back up. Now you're running late. This church starts at 9 a.m. This is early. Early. We'll start at 10. And so you can be late. Sister Monique's up here praying. Set the atmosphere. She had exactly what you needed, but you're late. You missing. You missing. Well, so let's just say everything lines up. You didn't have an argument, everything's fine. Y'all come in here singing, and you heard the prayer, and everything lines up for you. I urge you, you still have to holler. And when he heard it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out, O son of David, have mercy on me. You have to holler. You have got to say something. It's not enough for Jesus to simply walk past. You have got to holler. You have got to say something. How else do you know you're there? How else do you know that you believe in what he has for you?
That's right.
Yes, sir.
All right, now.
Now, you had better holler in that moment. Because that miracle, that moment may never come across in that capacity against you. What you have to understand is, as I mentioned earlier, Jesus is on his way to die. This is it. He's never going to cross blind Bartimaeus' path again. He needed Jesus to walk past, but he'll never walk past again. So you have to take full advantage of that moment. You can't wait. You don't know if you're going to be here next week. You don't know what's going to happen next week. What you need right here, right now, is your healing. Why wait?
That's right.
Haven't you sat in it long enough? Haven't you experienced without him long enough? That you just want to remind me of the little song. Because I knew that when I saw you again, that I wouldn't want to let you. How do you know you're going to see him again? You don't know that. You bring up music and stuff all the time. You don't know if you're going to see them again. So you need to take full advantage of that moment. And I tell you, you can't holler like everybody else.
All right.
Hey, well, go ahead and read that second thing for me. Go ahead. Drop that down.
And a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had and was nothing better, but rather grew worse. When she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind and touched his garment. For she said, if I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, who touched my clothes? And his disciples said unto him, thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou, who touched me? And he looked around about to see her, and that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him, and told him all the truth. And he said unto her, daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace, and be whole of thy plague.
Thank you. So you can't holler like everybody else. See, Jesus was also in her life, just as he was in Bartimaeus, where it says when she heard of Jesus. So that means she's going through her life, and she has this issue. She's going doctor after doctor, and spending money, time, energy. She said for her to only grow worse. So in the midst of doing this, she hears about Jesus, and she starts to believe he can heal me as well. And she started hearing the same thing blind Bartimaeus. And if he can do it for them, he can also do it for me. But again, she didn't get the second part of faith. She got substance, but she does not have evidence. She got can, but she doesn't have is. But what was different about her touch? What was so different? It says And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press, and said, Who touched my clothes? And his disciples said unto him, Thou seest the multitude thronging thee, sayest thou, Who touched me? Everybody's touching you. What are you talking about? Everybody wants a piece. So what's different from hers? Faith was the difference. When she had substance. She had substance. She was down here. She built it. But stepping out on it, when she reached out and touched, that cemented the second part of the faith. That was the evidence. That's how she showed God that you can do it. I know she 12 years bleeding. She leaves her house, her children. I don't know what y'all, I'm not a woman. So I'm assuming the bleeding she's experiencing is a woman bleeding, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know what it feels like, but I do know the effects of it to a certain extent. The attitude, the bloatedness, the cravings and all this thing. You're doing this for 12 years. You want a doctor after doctor. She's dragging herself to doctor. She's weakened. But yet she finds it and found strength within herself to say, if I may but touch. So she goes and she touches and she receives exactly what she needed.
Immediately, yes.
Talking about Bartimaeus now, like I said, you can't holler like everybody else. Like the woman did your blush, you couldn't touch like everybody else touched. So you can't holler like everybody else is hollering. You can't harmonize. You can't be cute about it. No. You need something. You've been sitting on the side of the road begging for so long. You need Jesus. Help me. You need this thing. You need. And it's been about 12 years. It's not long enough. How much longer do you have to suffer? Come on.
Oh God.
Yes.
Let's move forward.
That's bless you, Lord.
You got to have faith. Necessary.
That's right.
Absolutely, positively, you have got to have faith. Here's what I need. That faith is made you whole immediately. That faith is made immediately. That faith is made so Jesus releases power for wholeness, releases the ability to be made whole. But if you don't have faith, you don't receive it.
That's right.
That your faith, he didn't do it.
Yes.
He released that power to the atmosphere, but it's your faith that activates that power that he releases in order to get exactly what you're asking for.
Yes.
So, how are you sure you have the faith? That's a fair question, right? That's fair. How do I know? I'm sitting there screaming for him. I make sure I line myself, put myself in position for him. And so how am I sure that when I holler, I'm going to receive what I'm asking for? Well, a little G14 classified. I got that. Ephesians 6:13. Wherefore take unto the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done all to stand. Having done all to stand. Now, all doesn't mean everything. No. Let me give you the definition. The whole of one's energy or interest. So everything that you have, all Bartimaeus had in that moment was his holler. So he hollered. He hollered. And it irritated some people. They got mad. They said, shut up. Stop hollering. And they said he hollered even the more. See, he might not have nothing else, but I can holler louder. I may not have the robes. I may not have the position, but I can holler louder. So you're down here and you have this faith. So everything, all that you have, everything that's in your mind. If you ain't got no legs, you better crawl yourself up onto this stage and crawl around. If you can make noise with your hand, make noise with your hand, holler. You got your voice. If you can run, skip, hop, jump, you better run, skip, hop, jump. It's for your energy. Everything that you have in your being to prove to him that you believe him. That what you establish in him, that you believe it. Now, what's all this running? So you mean to tell me, Caesar, if I run out of a car here and I start running, hopping, skipping, and jumping out in the street, I'm gonna get it? Let me explain this a little bit. You want school, so in school, you establish the stage. I'm supposed to be in school. I know God said it to me, so I built this stage. Boom, I'm supposed to be in school. So me, the running, hopping, skipping, and jumping is me positioning myself. If I believe that I'm supposed to be there, I now have to position my life for when it comes, correct? And that's the difference between sitting and waiting. Sitting is, I'm just here. Waiting is expectation. If you're telling me you're on your way and I'm waiting for you, that means I'm getting in the shower, I'm getting dressed, I'm putting on my clothes, I'm putting on my shoes, and I'm ready and prepared to go whenever you come. So if school is what I'm building my stage on, that means that I'm positioning, I'm rearranging my schedule, I'm quitting my job if I have to, I'm positioning my life so that when school comes, I'm now able to step into it with no issue. That's how I prove that to God. If I'm supposed to be moved, God says, you gotta move, you gotta go. All right, well, I gotta go. I gotta start looking, well, where you want me? I gotta start looking for apartments, I gotta start saving my money, get my credit right, whatever it is I have to do now. That's the running hobby. That faith without works is dead. That is the works. That's the works that we speak of. Position your life so that you're able to walk right into what God has for you.
Yes, sir.
As I close, I don't want to take away from either passage. In both passages, we see great works based on faith, which is wonderful. They believed in God for something that they needed. They hollered, they reached out, they touched, they built the stage, they got on the stage, they jumped and they hopped, and they received it, and that's amazing. But I don't want you to become blinded by the miracle. I don't want you to simply focus on the fact that they received. Mm-hmm. How long did blind Bartimaeus have to sit there with his half faith and receive no miracle? They said a woman with issue of blood suffered 12 years. 12 years? That's how long you want to wait to receive what God has for you? Everything you go through takes 12 years. Everything that you want from God takes 12 years. I don't want to take away from what they did. I mean, you got to get it how you live. So I'm not saying that it can't take a long time, but I'm saying it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be that long. As soon as I place the last nail in this stage, it's good. What am I waiting for? What's our famous line in I Know What You Did? I know what you did last summer. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Like, what are you waiting for? The stage is built. The stage is built. And if you're confident, you established it under God's word, why wait to walk on it? Do you not trust him?
All right.
Come on.
Come on.
That's right.
You're going to walk out on it. I don't know when they develop part one of their faith. I don't know when they develop their substance, but I urge you now, whenever it is that you do this, walk out on it.
That's right.
Believe it. Why else build it? You got all these, you got all kind of foundations in your life. You ain't built one house.
Oh, God.
You ain't built one house. I do not like olives. I hate them. I don't care what you do to them. So stop convincing yourself that you like something in your life that you know you don't like. You know you don't like it. So why are you eating it? Why are you taking it? Why are you operating under this system that you know you don't like? You can hit me. Just tell me that you love me. You can cheat on me so long as you take care of me. I need to be a womanizer before, because I can't be forced to step up and be a man. I can't go back to school. I'm too old. And I need you. You don't like it. You don't want to be there. You don't like that condition. You operate under the system. You don't like the condition as a result of it. So you don't have to be there. As soon as the last nail is placed into your foundation, as soon as you establish in God, this is what I believe. This is the thing that I need, and I believe that you can do so. Walk out on it.
That's right.
Yeah. Prepare your life for it. Yes. Position yourself to get what you know you need and that you waited too long for. Thank you.